All right, waiting on Attorney Plunkett.
Okay. Yeah, we need to take some hard stances. Thank you. Tim? Yeah, you ready?
Yep. All right, Madam Clerk.
They don't take it. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to call this SPLOST meeting to order. I know that we're going to have discussions with the airport, our engineering department, as well as our utilities department today. All right, handouts are be given. You want a piece?
Oh, does the airport have one? The airport has a presentation? The airport. You'll start, then Wes, okay? Ready? Yes, sir. Good
Thank you.
morning, everybody. We will now get ready to start off our next round of presentations for our SPLOST 9. Just a couple of things before we hear from our utilities department, which will be followed by our airport, and then, of course, our engineering department for their SPLOST 9 needs. We will, on July 8th, have another work session for our outside authorities to come in and present. Then during our finance committee meeting, I will present a recommended SPLOST list and provide you all the respective documentation with all of the requests that we have and have gathered from the various departments as well as agencies. Keep in mind, as I've told you initially, the overall request for SPLOST 9 has exceeded $1 billion. We know our goal is to stop somewhere within 5 to 6 years, which will get us around 375 million. So I've asked all departments to utilize a target number to kind of get close to, so at least we can kind of compress the $1 billion somewhere close to the $375 million target. So each of them, I also wanted them to be able to present everything that they're respectively asking for, to include their respective priorities to get us to that target number, but to also make sure that you're aware of all of the respective requests that they have, so we don't leave anything off. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Wes Bine, who will go ahead and do the utilities presentation.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So I don't know if we're going to have the presentation up or. All right, thank y'all. Here with Wes Bond, here with the Augusta Utilities Department, here to request $374 million. Of course, I'm kidding. All right, so I figured I'd jump off that way and we'd get started today. What are we here asking for today? We're asking for two specific projects, $12 million apiece. One of those is the canal drainage control improvements. I'll explain that more in a little bit of detail. And then engineering project support for water and sewer line relocation. $12 million apiece. One is a block request for the canal improvements. The other is a rolling request through the life of the SPLOST project to support ongoing engineering projects. And so here's an overview of the Augusta Canal, giving you a diagram of the diversion dam, overall the embankments left and right, and the raw water pumping station, which we're all familiar with. I will say, just for the record, we're continuing to clear trees on the canal. I know we've had a lot of concerned citizens that have been calling about that. Just wanted to state that we're clearing the things that are necessary for safety. We're not trying to be egregious with it. We are going to lose some trees, but trying to leave enough to leave it with the character that we started with. With this particular item, at Lake Olmsted, there's a structure, a concrete structure called the Bulkhead Gate. I will show pictures of it here in just a minute. If you're familiar with the Lake Olmsted trailhead, the wooden bridge that you cross going across to the towpath is the bulkhead structure. Built in 1939 by the Army Corps of Engineers, it is the head of the levee system that rings the city of Augusta. Those gates out there, I think there's 24 gates total. We are the entity responsible for operating those for flood control for downtown. So in the canal at the bulkhead to downtown, there is only a limited number of places for water to get out. That's the reason we shut the bulkhead. We can't pass high storm flows. And so as a result, water that comes into the canal from generally four locations, the head gates, which we can close, that's all the way up at Savannah Rapids Pavilion. The others are Rays, Rock, and Reed Creek. Those three creeks are uncontrolled coming into the canal. When it rains, whatever water comes through them comes into the canal. We have to get it out at that point. Under a 2 to 3 inch rainfall, both Reed and Rays will export about 1,000 cubic feet per second. The river on an average day runs about 4,500. So we can easily match the flow in the river coming through those three creeks. The bulkhead structure itself has got a number of operational gates that control the steel structures that close over the holes in the gate to stop water flow from coming through. This is an actual picture of us operating the gates on the Thursday of Helene. So in order for us to open and close those gates, we have trucks with generators, a team of about 5 people that stand out there in the rain from start to finish. It's a 4 to 6 hour process. So again, the gates control flow from the canal into downtown. They reduce the risk of flooding in the downtown corridor. What does that mean? I did not want to show the flooding impact maps from the IDF curves. Those are limited, restricted distribution. But this general area around the hospital is at flood risk in the event that we can't close those gates. So below the bulkhead structure, water can come out at the mills. It can come out at Weigel's Gate, which is next to the city shop, and it comes out at 13th Street right across from the hospitals. Again, we continue to do tree clearing in that area. Just to give you an idea of what water surface elevations look like, you've got about 2 feet of vertical water storage down there. So the water level can rise about 2 feet until we start to be concerned about flooding risk. Because of the status of the gates and our pending FERC license, which is our regulatory agency, we currently lower the canal below its normal operating pool. And in the event that there's going to be rain, we continue to lower it about 1 foot for every inch of rain. And I'll explain a little bit more about that right now. From the time we make a change at the influent gates up at Savannah Rapids Pavilion until you see a change downtown, it's about 4 to 6 hours. So while it's only 1 foot or 2 vertical, it's a lot of water. These are the actual bulkhead gates. So from here, you're probably not familiar with the downstream view. This is below the structure looking back upstream. You can see that they're raised out of water and they allow regular flows to pass through. It's a concrete structure with steel gates. On the top, the stems and the red operators that you see are what we use to control those. They're gear-driven operators that you turn to raise and lower the gates. So here are some photos of conditions of the gates. So as I said, the structure was built in 39. It hasn't received a ton of updates during that time. The steel gates are original to the structure. The ones that are below the water line have been suffering some corrosion. They are still in, from an engineering perspective, good shape, but they are not in great shape. The FERC license requires us to analyze this structure as though the gates disappear. And so while that would not be a likely scenario to happen, it is the situation with which we must consider the condition of the structure. They use what's called the inflow design flood, which is basically like a 100-year flood event that comes into the structure. So we're showing some degradation. We have steel degradation along the metal gates themselves, as well as concrete spalling. And spalling is when chunks of the concrete break off, and concrete dries from the time you pour it till the time you demo it. And so over time, it just tends to break pieces off. That needs to be repaired. The gates here shown corrosion on the toe of the gate on the left, as well as the mounting brackets, and the gate on the right showing the yoke, which mounts to the steel structure itself. So again, our pending FERC license requires us to take action to mitigate the damaged gates. We have previously engineered this. It's been looked at numerous times. We have bid the job. It came in over budget 2 years ago. We came back and did a lot of cost optimization, made a lot of recommendations trying to lower that cost. As COVID has worn its way out of the system and steel has become easier to get, those prices have been normalized a little bit, but they still continue to be higher than we originally budgeted. We did put money in the bond for part of this, but we did not put enough to cover the entire structure. So we do have a couple of potential funding sources, but nothing that's concrete at this point. The project will be rebid as soon as possible because it is mission critical. I think Hurricane Helene demonstrated to us the need for it. So the current estimated construction cost for this repair, and that is de-water the canal. All the water has to be out. You have to crane in the gates, remove the old steel, replace, remount all the new steel, and fix all the concrete spalls. When this occurs, there will lose some trees at the entrance at Lake Olmsted. It's an unfortunate consequence of having to crane in things, but we'll minimize that. We're adding about a 15% contingency cost to this. In addition to bulkhead gates, and we're calling this canal drainage improvements. This is Tin House Gate, which is the one across the street that suffered erosion during the storm. Long Gate, which is the big one that you see if you go down there, has recently been partially refurbished. It needs some additional bank repair. And the Weigel's Gate, which is the one at the city shop. We're requesting $12 million out of SPLOST because this is really a drainage control feature and function for the city of Augusta. And necessarily we would like to share some of the costs with the SPLOST rather than it come strictly from ratepayers. The next project list that we're looking at is we're just basically asking for support monies to support GDOT and TIA projects. GDOT and TIA don't fund water and sewer infrastructure. This is a normal condition throughout the state of Georgia. It's meet with all the utility directors twice a year. It comes up in every meeting. GDOT shows up, turns the project over to a contractor. The contractor encounters a water sewer relocation, and we are told to move it. And when that happens, we pay those rates. And so it is just part of operation. We get a lot of really good asphalt. We get a lot of transportation improvement. In no way do we want to say it's not a good thing. We just would like some offsetting costs. And so we've asked for around $2.5 million a year through the SPLOST program to help us offset some of those costs. This is the general TIA map as I was showing up on there. Sorry, it's a little nasty. It was a quick slap together. The green overlay down there is kind of the extent of road work that's going to happen in downtown. With that, we pay for water line relocation, sewer line relocation, and water service relocations. So those are like the sidewalk improvements, require us to move meters. And if you're going to move the meter, there's often a conflict, so you have to go back to the main, and it gets expensive. Again, we typically pay GDOT rates in those scopes of work, just because that's the funding source typically, and TIA tends to follow that. GDOT does not fund water and sewer relocations. Just a quick list of upcoming TIA projects in the next band to let you know there's a lot of work, a lot of good things are going to get done. Just would like some support. Total request over the life of the SPLOST is $12 million. And so those are the two things I brought before y'all. I'd like to know if y'all have any questions y'all like to ask me today.
Does anybody have any questions for Utilities Director, Wes Bynes. Wes, I do want to tell you that your request is very fair, $24 million, 15% of what the SPLOST is, and plus you got beginning and end. The money that you're asking for is to complete the projects. It's just not to start it.
That's correct.
I do thank you for that.
Thank y'all for receiving this today. I look forward to it.
No questions?
I do have a question.
Ms. Williams?
Mayor Pro Tem, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Bond. I know I just walked in, but I did a quick glance of this cost estimate, water and sewer. My question is, in the area, why can't I think of the neighborhood right now? The neighborhood that flooded probably 3 years ago, where that creek was in the back and they had a lot of flooding. I know me and you have had discussions, we had discussions after the fact of when those pipes were split up and how some of the pipes are the old terracotta pipes. So where do projects like that, because I'm sure that's not the only place that those pipes exist, so where would those projects be found in this presentation?
As we come across them, if we come across combined sewers, what we call that, if we come across any system that's in downtown that's combined still, while we're working on roadway projects, we separate them. The specific area that you're talking about, there's an I&I reduction program that's going to be forthcoming as part of the bond issue. It's not going to be enough to do everything, but it'll help eliminate some of those interconnections. I know you and I have spoken about at length how sometimes if there's a storm getting into the sewer, it's better to deal with it and treat it that way than it is to increase the flooding risk. And so there's a lot of moving parts with that conversation. There's a lot of things need to go into that. I think that while that's not in this request, it isn't a programmatic effort we're trying to roll out. As we encounter them, we fix them. But as to our knowledge, almost all of it's been fixed. There's always overflows. There's always, typically what we see now is storm floods and floods into the manholes from the top that are in the street. It's difficult to manage that. They do sell inserts and a few things, but they inhibit maintenance. And so there's a question. What we're going to do going forward is a company called ADS was our selected vendor is going to do flow monitoring. And so we're going to have a better idea in the coming year of where additional inflows are coming from and what they should be. And so that will help target the areas that need more I&I reduction, inflow and infiltration reduction.
Okay, but those areas are, and thank you for that explanation, those areas are being written down, they're being inputted into whatever system. So if I called and said, hey, can you tell me the areas within District 2? Because a lot of those areas flood when there's rain. And so I'm consistently getting calls, and because I pass those calls on when backflow is coming into people's homes, bugs, tampons, et cetera. And so I'm wanting to try to mitigate that quicker rather than later, because a lot of them have been dealing with that for the entirety of them owning their homes. Sure. So are we keeping up with that information?
We track all those requests, and we have the projects in CityWorks. And so, we set them up as a project. We've got a capital planning list, and we can tell you where they are in the overall scope. As with anything, there's a competition for funding, and that's why I'm here today, because there's always more need than there is funding. But again, we try to mitigate those individuals that have issues by installing backflows. There is some homeowner responsibility with keeping those cleaned and maintained. And we also try to make sure that the overflows don't exist. That's obviously our main goal, public health and safety, and that's all part of our scope. So, specific ones, I think we could get together and look at those individual ones again. Again, not necessarily part of this request, but definitely something that I know is on your mind and of high concern.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Bine. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. We got Commissioner Slandak has a question.
Hey, the project at Lake Olmsted, how long would that repair of those gates take?
So I have to take the canal down to do that. There's two ways, obviously, that this has to occur. My goal is to get in and get out in one dewatering event because the gates have to be replaced. 30 to 45 days is the target time, and we're trying to get it coincident with the dewatering of the canal to do the embankment repairs, which currently is going to be the fall. There's a sliding window. I don't have the official repair timing yet.
Okay.
But that's what my goal is, to compress it. So they will be working and costs will be elevated because of the time constraint.
Right, okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
Final question, Director Bynes, is how do you plan on putting infrastructure in South Richmond County with the only place the growth to happen?
What we've looked at is Little Spirit Creek Basin. We've done a sewer study to figure out how to sewer that basin. That is a big growth corridor sitting next to the industrial park. Again, the cost estimate on that was around 26 million. I really would like to see, the development community, the industrial community, the city kind of work together as maybe a PPP to make that occur. I think it's a great growth opportunity. We have to upsize other infrastructure to facilitate that, and obviously there's a little bit of a planning horizon to do that. But we've developed a plan, we've developed a concept, we've explored some funding sources. Nothing has stepped up yet to say this is the correct one, but we're willing to pursue those in any and all avenues to make sure we find them.
All right, any other questions? None? Director, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will hear from our airport.
The presentation.
You can.
Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So from the airport, we are asking for two priority projects. And again, the first project is we're calling it the Airport Southeast Area Ramp Pavement Expansion. And I'll show you some depictions as we go through this presentation. But this right here, that particular project is some pavement infrastructure on the airport in the airport's business area. And we're estimating that at about a $6 million cost. And our second priority project is the construction of 2 hangars on the airport, 2 aircraft hangars. So the total ask, again, the total request is that number is incorrect, but $26 million. So I'm going to read some of these notes verbatim. So the airport southeast ramp area, again, this would be approximately 10,000 square yards of additional pavement in the airport southeast area. And what this would do for us, and again, when I show the picture, it'll depict it a little bit better, but the southeast area of the airport, and those of you that have been to the air show, it's kind of that general quadrant of the airport. We've got over 150 acres there, and that is prime land for business development and aeronautical business development. So we have, over the last couple of years, we've been actually putting taxiway infrastructure in order for aircraft to be able to get out to this area. And we've invested some other monies into pavement out there, so this would further expand that. And again, like the second bullet, this will increase opportunities, again, for private investment, business development, also improved airfield circulation and safety around the airport. And what this does for us, not just the airport, but for the community, it will also be revenue producing in terms of residual spending. So, and this kind of goes for both of my projects, but as we build these projects, it implies that there's going to be more aeronautical activity, which means fuel sales, fuel taxes, ad valorem taxes on airplanes and the structures there. So, so this will have those residual benefits from an economic development standpoint. Again, this is a project the airport has to have a master plan per the Federal Aviation Administration. So this is a project, or these series of projects are in our master plan, but there is no funding. The FAA has some very specific funding criteria, eligibility criteria for their funding. We do have a robust grant program, but this particular type of project does not fall within the parameters of their eligible grant programs. That's why we're asking for SPLOST to support us on this. again, the second bullet point there, we have received interest from, we've actually got a waiting list for, and both items here are kind of companion items, really. But we've got entities that want to build on our airfield, both private and, of course, the airport, perhaps expanding this pavement as well as hangars. So this will be an opportunity to, again, to accommodate some of these business opportunities. The second project, again, companion project, our airport hangar construction. And again, this would add 2 additional hangars at the airport and very similar to the other project, enhancing the business posture. It will allow us to base more aircraft in Augusta. Right now, we've got 3 hangars at our airport, and they are maxed out in terms of tenants-based aircraft in those hangars. So we often have to turn away people or either park the planes outside. So some of that business goes to Thompson or to Aiken and even Columbia. Some of that business goes to other airports. And just another point, hangar availability, I guess, is a national problem. So GDOT Aviation did a study a couple years ago, and again, this is a national issue. So there's a shortage of hangars. It's not just here, but other places as well. The second bullet point here, again, just talk about this will allow us a little more day-to-day flexibility to manage our operation, to manage transient aircraft, business aircraft, based aircraft at our airport, and of course, the Masters Golf Tournament as well. And again, just like the other point that I made, this will definitely directly, again, create more residual spending at the airport and in the city and through the ad valorem taxes. So a couple of bullets, some of these I've already talked about, but just a couple of bullets. The first one, just sharing the airport's economic impact. And so this was a study that was done a couple of years ago that shows the airport at approximately a $300 million annual local economic impact. So we bring that up just to show the importance of the airport and how important it is to invest in the airport, not only for business, but also for quality of life. Again, we anticipate that these hangars, these will be long-term projects in excess of 50 years once we get these hangars up. And again, no additional staff required to operate the hangar. So this depiction that I'm showing you right here, if you kind of focus on the middle right portion of the depiction, the kind of the yellow area and the adjacent purple area, but it's kind of an L-shaped area, but kind of this particular quantity of pavement that we're asking for would encompass the kind of the L-shaped, the bottom portion of the L-shaped area. That's about 3/4 of that is approximately the 10,000 square yards that we were depicting. And again, what this would do is it's a companion project to the hangar. So this would allow us to build hangars either in this area or other areas of the airport. Another thing that I want to note, so the adjacent area just below the yellow L-shaped area is Taxiway Apron Golf, which was recently built. I talked about some of the infrastructure that we put in the last couple of years to actually be able to get to this area. So that project there was funded primarily through TIA. So the TIA has helped us kind of get to that point. And again, we're asking for some SPLOST support to expand the pavement. And then this final depiction is just again, a picture of an aircraft hangar. And we're looking to build hangars, about a 30,000 to 40,000 square foot hangar. And this particular depiction here would probably fit about 3 or 4 large aircraft in the hangar. And you have the aircraft parking space as well as adjacent office space in that hangar. So that concludes my presentation, unless there are any questions. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
I'm sorry. Who? Okay. So out of these projects, these 2 projects that you have, we cannot use TIA, we can't use GDOT money or apply for grants? I'm just asking.
No, sir. they're not eligible for FAA grants, and we've exhausted other. One thing that we have looked at and we've had some success is private sector. So there are some private investors that are willing to either build hangars.
Public-private?
Yes, sir. Either build hangars and sublease them, or either build hangars and occupy them for their own business. So that's probably the other potential funding source in the private sector.
Okay. All right, no questions?
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, our final presenter for today would be Dr. Malik for engineering.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me see if I can get my presentation. Right, good morning again. So, this is kind of summary of the request, and then I will go through some of the slides to get into more details. As you know, the engineering, the primary funding source is really SPLOST for a lot of work engineering do day to day and the maintenance work. So all these requests either is the projects in progress or for the maintenance type work. So there's no new roadway project or drainage project in this request. I'm gonna quickly run through this list and then I'll come back at the end with more detail. So there are 30 different items on that. So the first request is for grading and drainage. Basically, it's all deal with the storm conveyance system maintenance type work. City has aging infrastructure, so we have literally sinkhole, if not every day, every week. And right now we're actually working on roughly 27 to 30 as we speak right now. And there's one pop-up on Friday evening right at the 9th and the rental. So we're working on that. But this 25 million is really built into the stormwater utility, and I have a slide, I will go more into detail that. Again, the next one is for the road paving, which is basically all the requests we get, through the commissioner, to HOA, to the citizens, and our own observation, and I have more detail on that too. The next one is for the streetlight implementation and improvements. We are working with Georgia Power to do the assessment of that, but moving forward, there will be funding need to make that coordination with the Georgia Power to work, because there will be some funding needs as a partnership between the Georgia Power and the city. The East Augusta drainage project. So there, this is the overall drainage improvement for the East Augusta neighborhood. There was 8 projects started. Engineering started back in 2007. It is under construction now. We are finishing up phase 1, 2, and 3 now. Merriam Home was phase 8, but it was gonna by the directive of this commission, it was moved up. So that's also done, but still there are remaining phases here, and there are some money allocated previously, but this is just to get us to the finish line so we can complete the overall drainage in that. Then on-call is just the small projects that comes up, and we have to address that. Right-of-way substation utility structures, adjustment is more or less what's the West Pine, Dr. Pine has a request. So we can remove it if money is allocated to AGD, but we can work through that. But there is a need to address that. Again, the sidewalk improvement is a twofold. One is repairing existing sidewalk. We do have ADA responsibility to comply with the federal ADA, all that, and then there are multiple requests comes up to add more sidewalk or create a connectivity between, existing sidewalk, and there may be gap in between. The number 10 is the Walton Way safety. So this is the road project. The funding was allocated in SPLOST 8, so it's under design. And right now, we are in the right-of-way phase. It's right from Lake Forest all the way up to the Hickman Road, a little past that. It will include improving the safety features at the Hickman Road because there's a sharp bend, so it will have a roundabout there to mitigate that part on that. The Wilson Garden, again, this is the project been in the system, and we're working through design and everything else since, I believe, 2008. So this project is ready to go, and city was able to get some federal funds actually in this through the federal appropriation on that, 3.5 million or something. So we are, as we speak, the department is working to get the bid out to at least get the primary improvement done, which is the area between Golden Highway, Olive Road, Tubman Home, and that area. That's the whole area, but this whole area drains through the go under the Garden Highway and comes into the Hyde Park neighborhood. That's what the relocation was, to build the original facility there. So, but the goal right now is to get started, at least primary construction, and then as the fund become available, we can build the regional facility but at least we can contain water right now there. Alice Street is ongoing discussion. We've been doing, engineering been doing in kind of segments. So 13th to 10th was approved. And right now we're looking at the road diet to make it one way, but it does need drainage improvement, all that. So that's for that. Again, the lake dredging maintenance is ongoing activity. Thanks to all allocated in SPLOST 6, and there's some there's some dollar in SPLOST 8, but there is an increased demand to clean up the creeks and some of the other lakes. So Lake Almond, Lake Olmsted, Harris Pond, Lauren Lake, we dredge that, but then like Harris Pond, really we're going back every year and scoop it out, all that. There is a buildup right now under the Berkman Road Bridge, so we're working on that. Even our third level canal right here, it needs really sediments removal there. So there's a continuous need to remove sediments. Race Creek has a lot of buildup, same as the Rocky and others. Then the flood control structure basically is our levee, and engineering take care of two category 1 dam. What that means is if the dam fail, the life is at risk. So levee a lot of structures similar to what West Palm was showing. There are other raised gates need to be repaired and all that, and it's under the jurisdiction of Corps of Engineers. So they comes out and identify some of the repair needs and deficiency on that. The next one, it's same subsurface utility relocation. So this one and the earlier one really tie back to the road projects, but there also need for the manhole adjustment. We got engineering get a lot of requests to adjust the manhole with time. The area around the manhole settled, the manhole cover is settled. So right now for the new projects, if you all see, we came up with better way to protect that area. So we begin to do the concrete enclosure around the manhole. That's what those white concrete circles are. So hopefully that'll help or prevent settling around that manhole on that. Then Rocky Creek flood reduction, again, this is the project been going on since 2002. There were citywide effort to join with the Corps of Engineers and do the flood mitigation study for all the creeks. The Rocky is the one right now where we're gonna build the regional pond or what you call the holding facility right above the North Lag, between Nolan Connector and Ilex. One there and one behind the old Regency wall to control the water. That way, then release as it controls. So the ask is to supplement the funding which already there. So hopefully we get this project under construction in 2026. Then the drainage supplement studies, again, right now engineering initiated and working on 4 major studies. One is in the National Hill area. Part 1 is completed, and we're about to do construction. That is between Eisenhower and Alexander Drive, and part 2 gonna be Eisenhower and the lake. So we just got the task order to start the part 2. The other one is in National Hill, in the Forest Hill area on the Walton Way. Basically, all these are the older city areas where initially it was a combined sewer, then it got separated, so there are a lot of aging and flooding issue. The third one, which is really critical, is the Turpin Hill area across our medical facilities, Lanny Walker, Riceboro Road, all. Right now, we gonna focusing on, and Commissioner William, she has a lot of, so we've subdivided that project. So our main focus right now is around Steiner Avenue because that flood. So there's heavy engineering work really going on as we speak, and that's going to be our first subsection to improve. The challenge is whether we wanted to improve the existing system or really we want to use the existing system as a overflow and put a new. That's what we have to look at that. In my personal opinion, I think putting new will be more cost effective, but we will look into that. So that's what the drainage study. The fourth one is around the Goshen area. The Goshen development originally, to my knowledge, it was open ditches, and then at some point back in that old days, the arrangement was, okay, with the homeowners, you buy me the pipe, I will put it. So all those old are metal pipes, and normally it's 20 years good life, so they are aging. So we're studying that, how to improve that area in that one. Then site rehab, some of this is more, this is gonna be allocated to really ADA work on that part. And the next one is the tree management. That's the, we have continuous requests to manage our tree in the right of way. So that's what it is, Then some of the next few are like on-call emergency design services, appraisal, basically some of the small to medium requests we get, or we have to address some maintenance design issues. The next one is traffic operation improvement. Really, it's mostly about and the traffic safety, both are to improve our roadway from traffic point of view, like road diet, maybe roundabouts. I do have a list. I'll go through that on that. The next one is our entryway, enhancement upgrade. So we have several entryways, and there's always discussion, how we can do it. It's more like private-public partnership to enhance those. There are still few, like Gordon Highway and Doug Bernard. That was actually in the plans to do some landscaping or do enhancement on that things, Then the next is the bridge rehab. So we do have a lot of culverts and bridges. So time to time there is a need to rehab. GDOT does every other year the bridge inspection and points out some of the deficiencies on that. Number 27 is the machinery equipment. So that's all for engineering maintenance. is aging fleet, and they are in a desperate need to replace that to perform the work and maybe improve the efficiency and address some of the expectation this body had that to get more work done. The next one is our MS4 permit compliance. As each time is a 5-year cycle, so more and more requirements EPD or state puts into that, and really is more about our water bodies, the creeks. So right now, we have 3 to 4 creeks listed not meeting is functional use. For example, Spirit Creek is listed for sediment load. It's getting more sediment than it should get. Rocky Creek is listed for the E. coli or fecal on that. Rays is listed for, again, for sediments and all that. So they, we work, engineering is working through to keep still permit in compliance. We don't have any notice of violation or anything. So we are in a good shape, but moving forward, the next permit going to be issued in 2027, and discussion will start next year how to do that. The second last is matching fund for federal. So there are a lot of opportunity from the federal highway, not from DDOT, but federal highway for the road project through the MPO, but it's always 80-20. Like Willis Furman Road is our prime example where, is a federal funded. So so there should be some money, like $4 million, can get us other like 20, 10 to $20 million. So we don't want to leave the money on the table. We get every year 8 to 9 million. When I say we, the Richmond County and Columbia County, we are in the same congressional districts. So not having money, then we can't go after those funds. And the last one is really supporting the engineering workforce who are primarily doing the maintenance work on that. So with that, I'm gonna go to some of the details. So there are a few pictures, just to give you a general idea what engineering deal on a day-to-day basis. So this is about the drainage. So as you can see, like the bottom one is in the Pepperidge subdivision. That's the metal pipe underneath it, and it's failed. It's created a sinkhole. That property fence is undermined, all that. On the top is also in the south area where the trip or the creek runs at the back of the yard and begin to undercut the bank and encroaching the backyard and all that. So for that one, actually, we are in a core permitting phase right now because it's a creek. And third is the same one is a failing pipe underneath it on that. And the next slide, so this is another prime. This is also off Tobacco Road in the neighborhood. As you can see, there's almost 50-foot drop. So that metal pipe failed, the whole bank failed. So this is the improvement plan. Engineering is working through, even there is no easy way to get to this. So we're working through right now to get an easement from a commercial property and get to do that and repair that. So so each of that is a couple of $100,000 takes replacement. Like this one probably gonna be $500,000, $600,000 on that. So this is the discussion, we always have stormwater utility. This is the really backbone of $6.40. That's the table. But that's not the reason I included. I included this, the very first cost, $25 million. That was built in $6.40. The $5 million over 5 years will be allocated to this program to take care of the infrastructure maintenance, not the grass cutting and all that, but the infrastructure maintenance and all that. So I just see on number 18, yeah. number 18 on that. That's the 5 million. So that's what this 25 million request is coming, just to kind of make that work on that. But this is all the detail, how the $6.40 number was calculated and implemented on that. So the next one, again, the research thing, we're getting, and engineering really doing a good job. We increased payment, yearly payment project from 2.5, we went to 5, and now we're close to 6.5. And actually the current project, the contract we just started from SB McBean is around 21 million. Engineering is in a process of pavement assessment countywide. Hurricane Helene delayed us on that, and we had the data, but that now the impact of the hurricane, we are in the process of redoing basically that condition assessment on that. So as you can see on this card, basically the bottom one is which really payment we have to pave the road. The middle one is where we can do some surface treatment of the road to enhance the light, and top one. And in the bottom graph basically shows where we are, like backlog of all that. But the next slide I'm gonna give a little better. Yeah. So right now, what we are engineering is working, assuming we're going to have 6.5 million to do that, but it will actually increase the backlog, and also the roads, more roads going to be in a, need of repairing. If we keep it where we are, we're going to need 12.8 million per year to even keep it what engineering is doing now. But to control the backlog, really, we need somewhere close to 17.6 million. And then the bottom graph, when I give a general idea, where we're going to fall if we invest 6.5, 12.8, and all other things. So, so that's what, I put it 30 million there. Those really is not enough, but at least with this, with the TIA money and some other GDOT money, I strongly believe engineering will be able to increase 6.5 to, may not be 12.8, but at least 8 or 9 or something like that. So this is the general idea. Back to the East Augusta, I say there was 8 phases. So phase 1, 2, 8, and 3. 3 is we just completed on that one. But we are ready to, engineering is ready to move forward to phase 4. And we most likely will get the bid out this year. And then there are other phases on that. There are already some money allocated there, but the ask is to offset additional need so we can complete this project during the life of the SPLOST 9. Actually, it's help out, like SPLOST 8 has a $2 million cushion, and there was actually $4 million allocated to the phase 3, and that $2 million help us because bid came close to $6 million. So we were able to do that. And these are just different phases, just to give general idea, of that, with each phase, where to where it goes. So these are the project now. They are in design, and I just this is the Walter Moore project. It's more like road diet, because I know the lines are narrow, and there's a lot of safety concern, all that. So this is the improvement. We're gonna be doing all that. And this is where the bend is around the Hickman, Pepperidge, Bon Air. So that's the roundabout that, and then we're gonna transition back to that. So the project will be ready next year for construction. This will tie with the Monsanto project, which is 100% TF funding. So the goal actually is we find money, we can do both same time. That may be cost effective to do it, and also it will get us improvement at the same time on that. So this is the one federally funding project. It's 6 miles, Willis Farmer Road from Deansbridge Road to Beach Orchard Roads. So this will be widened to 3 lanes. We went through a lot of public meetings, everybody input. Original was 5 lanes, and then majority feedback we got from majority was 3 lanes. Right now, actually, this road has been designated by the federal highway as a backup defense road because of the Gate 5. So this is another, and also this is the other area where really the growth will win because there's a lot of land there to grow, and we're already seeing a lot of improvement. So there's 21 million from TIA, and this is 100% federally funded for design, which is 5 million. Is 100% federally, again, when I say 100%, 80-20. Is right away 100% federally funded, that's 8.5 million. And right now we have allocation of around 8 million from the federal, but we're gonna need more because overall construction cost is close to 40 million just for the construction. So the total project cost is maybe 52 million, something like that. So that's what the request is to, and engineering working hard with GDOT to finish up the right-of-way by end of this year, so we go in construction next year. The reason being, if we some reason fail to go in construction next year, then we have to really renegotiate for the federal fund, because federal funds are right now marked for 2026. So that may go away, and really we don't want to lose that, especially $10-12 million. And right now, actually, we're asking another $6 million from them to federal to gonna give us 14-15. It's the same Willis Farmer Road. And this is kind of standard detail of that, and it will have a multi-use trail on one side, like it's Winter Spring Road we have. But all this, as I said, there was a lot of public meetings at the Demolay Park, and we get inputs from the commissioners of the area, actually state representative, DOT, everybody on that. This is the Rocky Creek projects, which is a flood control for the Rocky Creek, and hopefully it will help some of the area. Commissioner Pulliam was mentioning that side creek that flooded, that's part of the Rocky Creek. So this is kind of overall layout, yes, on that part. So that's the upper part where the Rosedale Pond was. The pond remnants are still there. The actual control structure washed away. So this is just the general boundary area for Wixon Garden, just to give you all a general idea the improvement limits in that one. And I say, there are money there, but it's not enough to complete the project in that. And it comes to the last slide I have is traffic safety. And so engineering look at that, with our traffic operation, and John actually, and he's here, he can have more input if needed. But these are the area we look at to really we need to look at to do traffic improvement at the intersection and all that. With that, we will conclude, the engineering request, so I'm gonna go back to my summary sheet for this, for question and answer, so.
Can you go back to that one slide with the picture of the erosion?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Dr. Malik, back when 2015, I guess, when we were discussing the stormwater and the Patterson Bridge Road was, it wasn't maintained and it ended up collapsing, basically. And we had to go in, and the whole thing from the engineering department about pushing for the stormwaters, if we had stormwater, it'll prevent this. That's all I heard. As a matter of fact, it was continually used until it passed. Now we have pictures like this, that we got a stormwater in place now. And out of the list that you have given us, out of the $171 million list, $53 million of it is stormwater related. So what are we doing with this stormwater package that can we attribute moving some of these items to the stormwater?
Yes, sir. So that was the start of the program 2016, and I believe that was probably one of the first projects to repair that bridge.
But
Again, is it?
Dr. Malik, it was to repair the bridge, no doubt, but there was always signals being given, hey, it's being eroded, it's being blocked by logs, et cetera. But the whole thing from the engineering department to push the stormwater was if we had stormwater in place and we charged the maximum higher than anybody else or equal to the highest one around, we could actually prevent like the erosion like we're seeing in this picture. And so we sold a bill of goods and we're not getting that completed. So can you kind of, are we using any stormwater to fix items like this or prevent items like this?
Yes, sir. So SPLOST, again, the table is built into that overall unit rate. And we are, but as I said, Augusta has aging infrastructure.
We do.
Right,
No doubt.
and that's what is happening. So we are doing a lot more now with that stormwater. And also want to point it out, with the stormwater, actually it's help out to do the road paving too. Because some of the burden from SPLOST, stormwater fee, taking that burden, so their money used to be 2 or 2.5 million, just the road paving, resurfacing, and it went to 4 million to 5, and average is 6.5 on that. So stormwater is helping directly or indirectly. As far as the fee goes, around 13.5 million. We discussed at this floor multiple times. It's around 5.5 maybe, or 6 goes into supporting the workforce, and the rest some equipment. But we do a lot of permit compliance issues, like maintenance of the roadway, partially funding the street sweeping, some other studies we're doing, and stormwater has also been contributing to do engineering studies. All we're doing now. But all these infrastructure capital project primarily was through the SPLOST, and that's what $5 million is built in that table for CIP, which capital project in that table. So it's basically it's not like level of service did not approve. It's just the system is aging as we go every year. So we are catching up. It's metal pipes, and most of these are metal pipes. So we don't put any more metal pipes. Actually, we're replacing.
That's like Goshen, where the pipes are collapsed and not anything to do with Augusta, Richmond County. It's just Augusta accepted the responsibility when the neighborhood was built, and that's where we're getting them collapsed. As far as the previous SPLOST, Rocky Creek Basin, do we still have money set aside in the previous SPLOST in that?
Yeah, we have, again, top of my head, so I think we have maybe five around that million, yes, sir. But that's what we are, we should be able to, we're waiting on the permit. We're working with the Corps again, working in the creek is different nowadays than we may be doing 20 years ago. So we're working with the Corps to get the permit, and the goal is to get this project in construction sometime next year, all that. So whatever the money engineering has, if we don't get additional funds, we probably have to phase that out, like instead of building two control areas, we may start with the upper area first, which is above North Lag, and then come back and do behind the Regency Mall area on that to have a second flood control structure there. More or less, really, in a layman, is a detention pond where you bring all the water and hold it, and then you release it over time, all that. So.
All right. Dr. Balik, we got Commissioner Pulliam and then Commissioner Slindak that would have some questions. Ms. Pulliam?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Dr. Malik, for your presentation, or your request/presentation. I have a few questions. The first, I'm going to start with the sidewalk repairs and improvements. Did we receive money from any of the FEMA? Are there any FEMA funds or anything like that for the sidewalks that were torn up during the storm, or from like the trees uprooting and things like that?
So that's the permanent repairs. It's a separate project. So we are actively working with the FEMA to get that project approved. FEMA engineering did its own assessment and submitted. It's around $5 million. But the FEMA decided to come out themselves and re-inspect everything. So they were here, I believe, on June 6, 7, and 8. The good thing is they did not basically dispute our assessment. It actually also includes 47 ponds where we have damages and trees there. That's also included. So there are 3 projects. One is just for the sidewalk. Other is the road infrastructure, which is curb, gutter, and the road itself. And the third is the detention pond. So the FEMA right now is working through to create the final project. They still work old-fashioned way. They did everything on the paper when they were here. And then now they're going to go and enter in the computer electronic and then come out with their estimate. If anything is really, really pressing, we can go ahead and repair it. That will be another project where we say the work complete project. But yes, we are working with the FEMA through the administrative office and our consultant, Tetra Tech. But they've been directly communicating with me too if they have any question. And I think we're almost there to start that work. FEMA does not cover the creeks cleanup. I do have an agenda item today on that, and I can gonna get a little bit more into that time on that,
So they're covering ponds, retention ponds, and sidewalks and road repair. Okay, so once we get, I guess, what their final analysis is, then that may change these projected costs. Is that correct?
So this is just the what we do every day. That's Hurricane Helene really is not built into any of this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just the everyday engineering does maintenance work or the side. We have engineering get a lot of sidewalk requests, especially where the gaps are. There may be sidewalk and 3 blocks and then no sidewalk in the middle and the sidewalks. So, and then some of the ADA type concern, especially again, is the trees. There's, especially in the older city area, trees, all the roots are pushing. If you go around that Central Avenue, around those side streets, there's a lot of that kind of concern.
So this is just so I'm clear on that, and then I'm going to move on to my next question. The sidewalk repairs and improvements is just so that you can have money in your coffers, so to speak, just so that you can continue on with sidewalk projects, not necessarily to address any of the things that happened during the storm. Was that correct?
That's correct, but there is no really like large project. For example, we did Tobacco Road. We do it separately. That was like 1.2 million, 1.5 million. That's separate. For example, what we did over Kissenbauer on the dollar store, that kind of that project, that end up also $1 million because of the drainage. We have to address the drainage same time. So that's what is going to cover that and some of the sidewalk, where I say, or the gaps and all that, but it will not cover the actual, like in a neighborhood, it's in a subdivision, there's no sidewalk and they want to come and have a sidewalk there. That's going to be really a separate project, which we're going to identify, on that things, on that. And then the other one is the ADA. City has a ADA compliance requirement, and I believe somewhere in 2017 or 16, there's a study was done by the city because the Fed was asking that, what's your plan? So there is a study there, there's a plan there, and we do some of the area that identify in that study to keep city in compliance with that requirement. So they were asking like a schedule. They're not asking just go ahead and do everything because, it was, I don't remember how many million, but it was really a large number to do at one time.
So we'll definitely revisit that at another time because there's several areas that sidewalks are in disarray and in need of repair. On MLK, I know for sure, and then there's some other streets as well. My next question is for Rocky Creek. When you said that the project should be like kind of get on its way in about 2026, is that a definitive timeline or?
So that's the goal, to get 2026 if we get the permit from Corps of Engineers. So still they're reviewing, and if they have questions or concern, we may have to make changes to that. That project has two major improvement. One is between Nolan Connector and North Lag, that area, which is the upper area. That's where really more or less Rocky Creek starts. There are two major trips. One is the Rocky Creek that comes off the Nolan Connector, but there's one comes back off the Georgia Power facility there. That's bring a lot of water even from Upper Franklin, all that area. So the goal is to not only to restore the Rosedale Pond, which is a historic pond right there, but the area below that to capture this side trip, bringing that water and hold it there during heavy rain and let the downstream water, pass through and then release gradually there. So when the water level rise, it won't rise same time because we're controlling that volume at the head. And the second part is around the back of the Genesee Boulevard. Actually, that does have recreational part into that. So when we do that, we're going to have walking trail and all of the stuff around the berms and the pond and some parking area, and also extend the Genesee Boulevard, connect to the Villas Road. Right now it's end at the transit.
Okay, so you mentioned that the Rocky Creek flood reduction improvements started back in 2002. And I'm just asking this for my situational awareness so I can understand. The projects that are ahead of it, were they started even earlier than 2002?
No, the Rocky Creek probably is the older project. The other project, like Wilson Gordon, I believe was around 2008. It's, I guess, 2007, something like that. So these three are the oldest project in that. Village Farmer Road, I would say around 5-6 years we started that. So Rocky Creek, it was not only the Rocky, it was overall city flood risk assessment. So that includes Rays Creek, Augusta Canal, some of the things which West Vine mentioned earlier, where the canal can flood, what needs to be done, all there. Um, the administrator of the time decided not to proceed with it, and they're like Race Creek, there was no cost benefit analysis. When the court did that, really is not beneficial. The canal has, but then there was some decision to make that time which project to move forward and which to table it. So only Rocky Creek was the one which was decided to continue that. So that's what we're here. Core has a design. That design did not include the low-level storms or the rainfall. And Core, they have their own criteria. And that's what the concern is. If you get, a 10, 15-year storm, then the lower area still will flood. See,
Right.
and people will question that city and Core, you all spending, that was $9 million actually what they were proposing. And that's what after back and forth, they don't want to change it. So I say, okay, then if you don't want to change it, I really can't answer that question. That is, after $9 million, we did not see any improvement. So we just take it, everything what Core did, and now we're doing as a local project to do what need to be done to address that low-level storm.
So we did spend 9 million at one point.
No, we didn't
What's-
spend anything. We probably spent less than $1 million on the design or data collection, so we are still using that information, so yeah.
Okay, so in these studies, are we doing risk assessment as it pertains to the constituents that are experiencing ongoing flooding? Because when I'm looking at the projects that are ahead of it, although they may be less, at least amount in cost, my thing is, from an overall perspective, if this has been going on since 2002, are we taking into account for each project that we're doing how many of our constituents are being affected every single time it rains? So how are we I don't know, how are we ordering, or how are we doing this in order of importance as it pertains to that? And just like the 10 to 15 year rain where we had that flooding occur. But even as I directed to Director Bynes, or I asked Director Bynes, the constituents that are experiencing ongoing water coming up through their pipes and things like that, and every time it rains, they're scared because it's going to flood. So all of these other projects that have gone ahead of these 2002, 2008, are they experiencing those same things where their homes are being consistently flooded because they're in low-lying areas or because they're near the creek? Does that question, I hope I conveyed that well.
So really, there's two different approaches to that. So Rocky Creek is overall the creek, how we can manage the water in the creek. The low-lying area is really, that's what the stormwater studies here request. And as it mentioned, like Stanner Avenue around that area. So that's our primary focus, or we can call it hotspot. We're working on to address that. And hopefully we will have something which citizens can see, because they don't see what right now going on, and study by all that until we do something. So some improvement, the goal is to at least improve that. So that's what we're phasing out under that study. But this is going to overall to manage the water in the creek itself. And also, I want to point it out, that's what the request is, some of this, I'm calling dredging, but some of, these creeks and area, really, we need to remove the sediment buildup, which happen over time with or without construction. A lot of people think that construction bringing all the sediments, but it comes out the people's yard, the banks itself, all of this stuff. So, yeah, so we're doing, engineering is doing their best, and everything is our radar, but as Commissioner, you mentioned, we have to kind of put priority on that and kind of balance the available resource and funding, all other things. Also, in my opinion, I don't want to start like 10 projects and not get anyone done. So at least I contain to 3 or 4, at least I can get something, accomplished that way. So.
Absolutely. And I appreciate everything. I just want to make sure that, especially since I'm looking at these projects that were started long ago, that we are, in fact, a priority. The only thing that gives me hope is that you're saying that we should be getting something on the way in 2026 for that Rocky Creek project. But thank you so very much for your presentation, Dr. Malik. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Commissioner Francine Scott and Commissioner Jordan Johnson. Ms. Lindeck, do you have any? No. Catherine Smith McKnight?
I am good. Thank
Rice?
you.
All right. No other questions? Commissioner Jordan Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Dr. Malik, we've been dealing with an issue in Harrisburg on Ellis Street, where we had Cranston go out and do an assessment, and they suggested that we allocate some funding for a drainage project along I guess that's the north end of the Calhoun Expressway. Would that be appropriate to add in here, or would that funding somewhat lie in one of these other requests here?
So that's a small, medium project. So that is on our list. So that's the number 1 with the gradient drainage.
Okay.
We'll take care of that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's probably, less than $1 million or something, maybe $500,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Dr. Malik, thank you for your presentation. I'd like to thank Director Bynes as well as Airport Director. Thank you. Judon, yes. Hubert. Madam Administrator?
So, governing body, this ends our presentations for today. I neglected to state that tomorrow we will be here again, and we will actually have a presentation by our public safety, our transit department, and our information technology department regarding their SPLOST 9 needs. As Dr. Malik has stated, we are at like 171 million, and that's even with him cutting down his original list, because as he and Mr. Bynum have stated, the infrastructure in Augusta is just very aging infrastructure. So they can spend 600 million together just to get us afloat. So still, we know that we still have to cut down the respective requests that he's asking, but again, we want to make sure we bring everything and be very transparent of all the respective needs. So we will have the presentation on tomorrow with public safety, transit, and IT. Then again, we will move with those authorities on July 8th at 10 o'clock a.m. We will have their presentations, and then during the Finance Committee, I will present to you a recommended list, give you your entire package of all the respective documents that you have seen with the recommended list, and a scheduled meeting for us to have some kind of dialogue by July 14th to make some changes, recommendations, things of that nature, with the hopes of having this voted on by July 15th, because we have to have this list in place to do our due diligence to provide enough time for the office to take, the elections office to do what's necessary to make sure that it's on the ballot for November.
Right. I do appreciate that. I do realize that engineering, utilities, as far as our infrastructures, is priority, as well as our first responders. So hopefully it'll come in, our first responders, and then engineering utilities be on that list. What about the city of Hetzibah and the city of Blythe? Where are we at with them?
We're checking with the city of Hepzibah. We have not yet received their request, but we have received the one from Blythe.
Have we reached out to them?
Yes, we're reaching out to them.
We haven't yet.
Yes, sir. We just realized we have not received it. Did you reach out to them? Tim?
Follow up, if you would. I know that the chairman out there is doing a lot of infrastructure building out there, so I imagine this time is limited as well. But Madam Administrator, thank you, as well as the clerk and attorney for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A question.
Oh, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Ms. Allen, what is the hard deadline to have this package submitted to the Board of Elections to be on the ballot in November?
According to what we've been told, I think it's the 15th, no later than the 22nd, to have it voted on and finalized so that we can go through the process and get all of the respective follow-up documentations in place to the Board of Elections.
So the Board of Elections needs it by which date again? They need it, the Board of Elections need it by the end of July?
Well, we have to have it voted on by July 15th or July 22nd at the very latest, which will require us to probably have to call a special call meeting because I don't think we have anything
I just want to
planned.
know specifically what the hard deadline is to get it submitted to the Board of Elections.
Yes.
That there's several steps that have to happen. This body has to approve the final list. I think July 22nd is the deadline for that. Then we have to approve a resolution asking for the election, and that has to be done, I think, August 5th. So there's a couple steps that have to be complete, but July 22nd would be our drop
So
dead.
is August 5th the deadline that the Board of Elections has set? Like, is there a window that the commission is having to adhere to in order to get an item on a ballot? Is there like a set window or cutoff date?
We worked with Travis on this schedule, so this is, his drop deadline was the July 22nd, so that we can get everything else to him in time.
But there's not a, so like, for instance, I know if we wanted to have a ballot referendum, say for, one of the parties or something, there's a set deadline that's set for the Board of Elections, through the Secretary of State's office. So like, does Travis have a hard, like, is there a cutoff window by
I see
that?
what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I'm not sure what his deadline is to make sure he has the state guidelines.
Can we
I see
find
what
that
you're
out,
saying.
please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because, I'd only want to know simply because that only gives us about 2 more weeks or so to decide a little bit over $200 million worth of allocations. And I don't want us to rush through the process, but if we have some leeway, we should open up ourselves to take that. So if there's some guidance that we can get on that, that'd be helpful. Because again, I just, everybody has a want, everyone has a need, and we want to give ourselves enough time to really dig through it properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you, Madam Administrator. This session closed.